We are back, and this time we have the family. It's a family affair. Nannette Shillingford, she has her daughter, Mikayla Shillingford, and her son, Marley Shillingford. I'll allow them to introduce themselves in just 1 second. But hey, guys, how are y'all doing?
Doing really good.
Yes, good. Everybody's good.
So good. I know you guys, I grabbed you guys almost out of class. Like we're in between classes right now and studying. So I appreciate you guys for taking a moment to be here with us today, because this is so important to show how this generational education experience with your mom passing on all of her wisdom and STEM and STEAM to you guys. This is exciting. I want to hear from you guys in just a minute to give us a little bit more information about you all's experiences with Date Academy and also where you all are headed in your futures. But first, Miss Nannette, I think it's important for us to understand your journey, your career pathway to Date Academy. We can start there and then tell us also how you brought your children to Date Academy.
Okay. Well, just to tell you a little bit about me, again, you've said my name several times, Nannette Shillingford. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. So I am a true Flintstone from Michigan. And as far as the STEM is concerned, the story to it can sometimes get very interesting. I grew up, again, in Flint, Michigan, but I always went to Pine Bluff, Arkansas in the summer times with my grandparents, and they owned 150 acres of land. On that land, my grandfather had everything you could name: corn, all types of vegetables, strawberries, berries. He had animals, he had horses. It was just awesome. And it's so funny because that was in my childhood. Now, I grew up in a city, so I'm an urban girl. You couldn't have told me in a million years that I would have turned into a farmer, but it's crazy, or into the STEM girl and with the science, but it's so very, very awesome. What ended up happening, I started out actually getting my technical background. I used to work for Scientific Atlanta, which was later bought out by Cisco. So that's where I got my technology skills from. And it's funny, it kind of goes back a little bit further than that. I used to work with a company was moving into Equifax, and I worked with some technical guys who had to take the building apart. I was one of the junior technicians, and in taking it all apart and putting it back together in another location, it just made it all make so much sense to me. And I try to curtail my story because it can go so far out. And when I say that, I draw it back in because truthfully, Candice, when I start talking about it, I really just started following God's will in my life. And a lot of times I pause to say that because I don't want to turn it into a religious thing, but it's actually an honest and true thing. I've been to law school. I've owned my own businesses before, and so these are some things I had done in my earlier life. And it later, when I got married to a wonderful person, I had 2 beautiful children. What led me to Date Academy was I met Miss Armstrong, who is over our parent department here and one of the founders of the school. We both were cheerleading directors, and she was telling me about this great school called Date. Well, at that time, I was a real estate broker doing other things. So I went really on a whim. One of the wonderful things about Date is that the school goes up to the 8th grade. My children like in the 3rd and 4th grade, and I was starting to get to the point where I was concerned about, where are they going to go to middle school? I stepped on faith. I didn't know anything about Date, and I brought my kids here, and I loved it. During that time, when I was in technology, doing whatever I was doing, working there, it was a huge layoff, blah, 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 blah. Some more of my life going on. And I said, I'm not interested in corporate anymore. I'm not interested in being on a plane anymore. I'm going to just settle down and try to do what's best to be with my kids. So I went back and I got my master's in education, and I said I'll teach so I can be off in the summer times. And when I used to see Date from afar, I dropped my kids off. I heard it was a great school, and I would I was a parent. And then once I got certified, because I had developed a relationship with the administration here, they ended up giving me a position. I started in the classroom teaching science. And when I started, I was going to be the mathematician of the world, right? And I got bit by the science bug. And when I tell you, it's hard to be in detail because we would be on the phone. We would be on this podcast all day talking about it. When I get down to the meat of it, it truly is, I am trying to follow the will of God. I'm always asking him, direct me. And it seems the more I listen to him, and I'm really honestly faithful. He just keeps opening doors here. We've gone from having 2 baby chickens here to about 15 chickens, to adding goats, getting a cow, getting a greenhouse. And all of those things are so exciting to me. So I just started learning more and more and more. And again, I told you I'm going to stop because I can almost get off of the question when I start talking about it. Because when I look back and think that 25 plus 25 years experience ago, and that when I was a kid running around on 150 acres of land, never would I have thought now when I'm nearing, hopefully in the next 10 years or so, to retirement, that I will be planting seeds in children across the state of Georgia to learn about agriculture, environmental science, and technology, in hopes that, you know, those seeds to be planted and harvesting them at a later time and date in their life.
Absolutely. Wow. What a journey. I know that your kids are probably like, yes, mom, for making the decision to go to date, because you guys y'all look like y'all just had a great time at this academy. Mikayla, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now and some of your career goals.
Well, hi, I'm Mikayla Shillingford. I'm currently a senior at Rockdale Magnet School for Science and Technology. And after I graduate, I plan to go on and get my master's in marketing. And my number one school so far is Kennesaw State University, so fingers crossed on that. And the reason I want to, my dream career would be to be a marketing manager. And why is because I've always been obsessed with like statistics and accounting, and like the numbers in that just like have always amazed me. And also creativity. I've always considered myself a creative person. So making like ad campaigns and figuring out who to get them to, like what percentage of the population does this, who does this, that just like really intrigues me.
You just lit up talking about where you want to be. That's exciting. Look, fingers crossed you get into Kennesaw, your dream school, your number one school. I think they'll be happy to have you. Thank you so much, Mikayla. We are going to move to Mr. Marley. Introduce yourself. Tell us about where you are and also some of your future career goals.
All right, well, my name is Marley Shillingford. I'm currently a freshman at Alabama A&M University, so I'm really happy to be here. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. So what brought me here, I guess, is I guess anyone who's been close to me can tell you I've always been a creative. I've always liked working with my hands, always liked knowing how things work. And I felt like majoring in mechanical engineering would give me the opportunity to kind of flex that muscle, as well as engineering. You know, you have a lot of options in engineering, and my mom and dad can be the first ones to tell you that options are important. We had a lot of long conversations about making sure, you know, I'm choosing the right path. So I'm really glad with the path that I chose, and I think it'll allow me to branch off into other careers and endeavors that I want to do, because I know me, I'm just like my mom. I want to do any and everything, and I have a lot of big dreams. I have a lot of big goals. So I'm hoping that this foundation will help springboard me in the direction I want to go.
That's wonderful. Well, good luck with that. I think I'm like you guys too. I have a lot of different hobbies and career goals that I enjoy as well. So I think you're right where you need to be in achieving all of those goals. And you know what's cool is that you guys said you all are passionate about these STEM careers that y'all are in because you're creative and you're loving the technical aspect about it. Those two things combined are unstoppable. I mean, that's what makes what you all are doing exciting and wanting you guys to just stay in those pathways. So that's awesome. I have a question for you, Marley, and you know, you'll be giving me a perspective on the women as well. Not, you know, you're a young man, so it'd be great to hear your perspective, even about the female population. Why are women and minorities less likely to select STEM fields as their career of choice?
I think it's just because women and minorities don't have as many examples in those positions. You know, generally in STEM fields, those are positions of power. So it would be great to see more people that look like us, that see more women in those positions, to let women know, and people of color, minorities, that it's possible for them too. They don't have to just choose some other, you know, some other career, it's okay to take on that challenge. It's okay to go after that, math, the science, technology, all of that.
Absolutely. That's great. I think you're spot on with that. You strive to be what you can see. And I think that's so key. And I'm not trying to rhyme here, but that just came to my mind.
Right.
Great. I'm going to get back to you, Marley. I have something for Mikayla. Mikayla, when you were in Date Academy, what challenges do you remember that you faced while you were studying STEM courses there?
Okay. I can remember 2 challenges off the top of my head right now. The first would be when I was at Date, STEM was just being introduced, and it was introduced in a conceptual way, and I'm a visual learner. So they would like tell you about the robot and tell you this and tell you this, but we weren't seeing them at that time. So that was hard for me to learn it on that perspective. But also a main one was my mother was my teacher. She was a teacher at the school as well. No, there was no problem with her having her my teacher. It was just I was held to a higher standard. Like teachers would be like, oh, she should know this. Oh, her mom's a teacher. Oh, this, that, and third. And it's like, wait, you still have to teach me because I'm still a student. So that was one of the challenges too.
Nannette, how was that experience with you teaching? I mean, look, you teach your child anywhere you go, but in the classroom, how was that experience?
It was a different experience. Actually, she was a great student, but this was the funny part. It was a twofold because sometimes, with another student, if Miss Shillingford said something, I would get the look from her like, but mom, and I'm giving her that look like you better not. But then on the other side, I always tried to put myself where I can't make her special. I've got to treat her like like one of the other students. And she'd have the answer to the question and she would be raising her like, I know you see my hand. So it was a balance, but I enjoyed it. That's funny.
You guys made it through. Y'all made it through.
Yes.
Oh, that's so great. Well, with these challenges that we're discussing, I want to kind of see what you guys think about how we can overcome them and combat these challenges and increase the number of young talent to enter into a STEM field of study. And I'll direct this question first to you, Nannette. How can we combat some of these challenges, get these women and minorities interested in these fields?
Well, some of the things that we can do that I feel is kind of go back into the community and do things. And we can partner with other organizations to promote more meaningful learning and, going back and enriching the communities. And I'm glad that you asked that because a project that I am currently working on right now, it is a company that's called Satira STEAM. Satira was my sister. She died of lupus about 8 years ago. And so I'm passionate about the Foundation for Lupus that will be connected with Satira STEAM, and that's spelled SAYTRA STEAM. And with that, we're later going to be partnering actually with Date Academy to do some things where we'll go back in the community, into some of our communities and promote these things. I'm real big on trying to encourage, especially women. So we've had some seminars to promote for young ladies. And if I could be honest about it, the perspective that we're coming from is to show them that you can actually still be cute, feminine, beautiful, and you can still do technology.
Absolutely.
And you can still do engineering, and you can still do mechanics, because a lot of times I think that those areas are looked at as masculine areas, but they are not. It's funny because when I was working with Scientific Atlanta, I was actually an instructor. I instructed engineers, and the majority of my students were males. I love that. That was one of my favorite positions. It really was. But no, it was so liberating to do that. And so one of my things that I really want to do is encourage women to know the strength that they have in them, and don't put a title on yourself. One seed at a time. I planted in my children. I'm praying that my children will go back and share it with someone else's children. So it just takes, all of us that are actually in this area of STEAM, and you have this knowledge in the sciences and technology, the people that you encounter, the youth that you encounter, make it an attractive thing and sometimes break it down to them in layman's terms. Because I think they're intimidated by it because they think it's like so hard and so difficult. But it's just one of those things, if you really get into it, you'll realize there's so many different areas that are covered by STEM and STEAM. So that's one of the bigger ways. I don't know if my answer was kind of too large, but I think just by role modeling, going back in the community and reaching for those people who are not doing it. And a lot of times it can be, again, people of color, going back into those communities and actually letting them see. That's why I think that real world connection, seeing, when you see the circuits, when you see the experiments being done, when you're breaking down the anatomy charts, sometimes those youth have never even been exposed to these things to know and go, oh, you know, it's almost like going back to when I told you when I first got into technology. I was very intimidated when I was clamping down wire and phone. And then when I saw them taking up the floors and moving the, I'm dating myself with saying this, but moving the channel banks, and back then they had mainframes and all that. When they pulled up all that stuff off the ground and I saw it, it made so much sense to me. So if we can find a way to go out to these communities, encourage these young ladies to know that they can still put on their stilettos and be a technician, I think that that really would encourage more of the females as well as our African American students to be more interested in the area of STEM and STEAM.
And speaking of women, Miss Mikayla, I want to hear from you as well. What do you think we need to do, whether it's at, you know, Date Academy or, you know, those who are already in the workforce? But let's take that back, because we're not talking about the workforce. That was another thought that I just had when I was listening to your awesome answer, Nannette.
Okay, because I was hoping I wasn't babbling.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine, because again, on our end, we can edit, and depending on whatever the time constraint is, we got it covered.
All right.
But I love that you targeted my mind to think of something else. So here, I'm going to take it back.
You asked Mikayla.
Absolutely. So, and speaking of women, Miss Mikayla, I want to hear from you. I want to hear about what you think we can do to combat these challenges and really get more women interested in pursuing STEM fields of study.
I think exactly what my mother said is what we need to do. It's more so the information that needs to be out there, because I've had the opportunity to go to STEM schools since 3rd grade. So I've been exposed to that my entire life. So I've known about these jobs, but I know not everyone had that opportunity. So if you're not exposed to it, you won't know about it. So like her satire STEAM, going out and telling these kids while they're young, so that's in the developmental stages, when they're thinking of what they want to be, that's what they're thinking of. As well as how she said, because we tend to put a race on occupations. We tend to label occupations, and occupations don't have labels. Like we say, oh, that's a guy's job, oh, that's a girl's job. If we could take those labels off, I think that's when people will feel more comfortable actually going in employing in those. Yeah.
You are your mother's child. Yes, that's it. I feel so empowered. Come on, Marley, bring it home. Tell us your opinion. How can we get more minorities, more women? How can we really break these chains and get these younger generations specifically interested in these STEM fields?
I think another from what my sister said was great. That's a really good talking point. But I think another really big thing that we have to do is kind of show that engineering and STEM specifically, it isn't always just, you know, suit and tie sitting at a cubicle. And I think for me, that was, my mom and dad can tell you about this. That was the biggest problem for me, is I know my personality. I want to work with my hands. I want to do everything. I want to do this and that. And I couldn't see myself sitting at a desk, and they had to tell me, like, Marley, that's not all engineers do. And so I think when you show people what different branches and what different routes you can go with engineering, they're going to be more likely to be into it. Because for like a perfect example, the first time I really saw being able to do something other than like desk work was I'm actually really into acting. So during when last year in my high school year, when we were doing one of our plays, we needed to design the set and whatnot. And so no one really knew how to like work with tools and, you know, cut wood, you know, put a set together and make a stable base. And like all of that stuff was like grade A, you know, easy stuff for me because I've had years of engineering experience. So I was able to be one of the leaders in set design. And I never would have thought that going to my engineering classes would allow me to help my theater friends. So I think when you give people those real life examples and show them like it's more than just, you know, computer aided design and like more than just desk work, it can really help you in the other fields that you have an interest in, then people are more likely to be drawn to it.
Whew. Well, Nannette, can I just take your kids with me and let them co-host this podcast with me? I'm telling you, all jokes aside, you all are just so on point and so intelligent. And I love how focused and passionate you all are. And you guys are going to go far. And I'm not just saying that, but I truly, truly mean that. And I can't wait, you know, for our audience members, you all listening. I mean, my goodness, have your kids watch this episode because kids need to hear other young adults talk about these things. I love it. Give real life experiences. Well, that's you guys. You guys are the living, breathing, walking, talking, real life experiences. And I encourage you to continue to tell these stories and promote STEM careers. For I love that. I love that example you gave, Marley. So y'all, thank you so much for this segment. I just want to give a brief recap. We introduced Nannette and her family. We have Miss Mikayla and Mr. Marley Shillingford. We discussed that Mr. Marley says that there aren't many examples of minority leaders in STEM. And then also Miss Mikayla mentioned that she had two challenges while she was a student at Date Academy. One was her learning style. She's more of a hands-on learner. And when she first arrived, you know, STEM was just being introduced to the academy. And so now you all have evolved and you have that hands-on learning experience. And she mentioned that it's definitely helped her evolve in her learning style. And then also, I think it's so awesome. Her second challenge, which really wasn't a challenge, was that she was a student. Her mom was her teacher. You guys made it through. And then last but not least, we went into some of these solutions that are so awesome. I'm just going to name a few. Get more involved with the community. Miss Nannette is so on point. Get involved, especially having people of color go and enrich their communities. And then we discussed how we can encourage women to know their inner strength. I love that you said that, Nannette. That is so key. They can, you know, be smart with their stilettos. I think that's awesome. And then, and also, you know, spreading awareness and exposing women to the information that they may not even know exists. Mikayla, that is so important. Giving that exposure to our youth at a young age is key. And then we discussed, Mr. Marley brought us home with showcasing that you can do both. You can work with your hands and you can also work at a desk. The variety of different routes that you can take, specifically even in engineering, with these STEM fields is amazing. And there's something for every personality. And that's information that we must give these real world experiences. And that's what y'all are going to do, help me to do.
All right. And I'll just prompt you guys, like I'll always start with Nannette. We'll
any
start
last
with you,
statements
and then I'll,
before we take a break?
I'll pretty much keep the same order, Nannette, Mikayla, Marley, but I'll prompt you guys. So
y'all are awesome. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Well, listeners, we've had such an amazing time. I'm kind of sad that we're wrapping up. This is our last segment in this episode where we're talking about Date Academy. And we still have Miss Nannette Shillingford and her two children. We have Mikayla Shillingford and Marley Shillingford. I had to keep you guys on for this next section because y'all were killing it in the last one. So we want to continue to know your perspectives and really go deeper. We want to dive deeper on one of those elements that we previously discussed, which is mentorship, student mentorship to be specific. And so just let's start really simple. Let's start really basic. Just the definition. of mentorship. What do you all think? How do you define mentorship? And we'll start with Nannette.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, when I think of mentorship, it's like sharing your guidance, your wisdom, and your knowledge with another person in order to motivate them to make a better life for themselves, and being a good role model while you're doing it.
I love that. Woo, that was all encompassing. I love that. What about you, Mikayla? What do you think student mentorship is?
She actually stole my word. I was gonna say that it's when you act as a role model or you set an example for someone, either like that you're mentoring. Yeah.
And what about you, Marley?
I would say a mentor is anyone who has been where you've been or is going where you're trying to go, so they can sort of have tell you where the pitfalls are and whatnot, and help guide you in whatever direction that you're trying to go.
I love that. Going where you're trying to go. Wow. And why do you guys think mentorship is so important, specifically for women and minority students to receive? And we can start with Miss Nannette first.
One of the important reasons that is needed, again, is based on our conversation from earlier. Unfortunately, all children in colored communities, Black communities, they don't get exposed to what other children do. So the mentorship is so important. Knowledge is power. I always say that knowledge is power, and the more you know, the further you can go. So it's needed. It's almost imperative, because those who generally succeed that are of other nationalities, they have those mentorships available to them. So it's not that we're lacking in any part as far as our intelligence level or our ability to do it. It's just a matter of someone helping us a little bit and showing us and mentoring us. And once we've got it, we turn it to some pistols.
Wonderful. What about you, Mikayla? Why is that important? And you can even speak from just your personal experience. Like, why do you think that's important to you?
Well, I'll start out with this why I think it's important. Why I think it's important is because we're already not represented. So if you don't see someone like you doing it, you don't see yourself doing it, in my opinion. Like when you search up doctor, lawyer, chef, even, your first picture you get is normally of a white American person doing the job. So when you see that, it's like, if you don't see yourself doing it, you don't see it. So I think if you had a mentor of someone who looked like you and had background as you and was mentoring you on how to get like them, that would be like incredibly helpful. And in my experience, at my school, in 9th grade, everyone's assigned a peer mentor from another grade. And she wrote me this quote on a postcard, and I still keep it on my mirror every day. And it says the most beautiful, the hardest roads leads to the most beautiful destinations. And like just seeing that every day, even though that's not like her telling me how to go to my career, her saying that itself just really like benefited me.
Wow. What about you, Marley?
I would say the most important part of having a mentor is having someone to help guide you and keep you from making the same mistakes they did. I think the most important way to learn is to learn from mistakes. And sometimes you don't even have to make the same mistake someone else did. If you have someone there to tell you like, hey, I've done this before, I've tried to do that, I've tried to do it this way, that's not the way I would suggest doing it. That can help steer you in a better direction. That could really put, 10, 20 steps ahead of if you were trying to do it all on your own and, making the same mistakes everyone already did 100 times.
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. I think mentorship is guidance provided by someone who's experienced in that field. And well, I'll say, okay, an experienced individual. And I think, wow, you guys are hitting on it so deep, is that how awesome is it that this experienced individual looks like me? It came from the same community as me, understands where I came from, understands my struggle. I love that you all added those different elements into your definitions and why it's important to have mentorship for young students. let's conclude this with one more question. Miss Nannette, I want to know what mentorship opportunities and resources does Date Academy offer students?
Okay, well, some of the mentorship programs that we have here that I think is great is school-wide. Every year, the students are divided up amongst the number of teachers with the number of students, and we're all given mentors and children that you will mentor for the entire year. That's an awesome program that we've been doing for a while. I also think it's really awesome what we have, and I believe that's under the guidance of Dr. McClatty here at the school. But what happens, and along with our counselor, Mrs. Hay, together they've put something together where they meet with the children in the morning after our assemblies. We have morning assemblies on Mondays and Fridays, and it's so fun. It's like a party. But anyway, afterwards they split up the male and the female so that they can have open dialogue to talk to them, to encourage them, and to provide some form of mentorship to the children every Monday and Friday. And of course, what I told you about the STEAM Dream Team, to me, of course, I'm a little bit, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm a little bit partial with that one because those are my babies. But that's, when I say that's the awesome, because those kids really, they're in the 8th grade. And when you start thinking about their age group, they're getting offered internships from companies in the 8th grade. And most of the time you get internships when you're a senior in high school. So through that program, that's a strong program for mentorship for these kids. It really
Absolutely.
is.
And actually, Mikayla and Marley, were you guys a part of the STEAM Dream Team?
I was.
What, Marley? What happened to you?
Well, when I believe I was already gone when
he was. Okay, let me say this so that I tell you, he really, he has to do the stuff in the background. So he's had to help and put things together. But the very first, my very first STEM team was Mikayla. So when he was here, I didn't have a STEAM team. He had left and gone to high school.
Okay.
I feel like I should be an honorary member at this point because, like she said, I do all the background work basically.
How about, look, we'll have off camera, we'll have to call you one of the founders, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Maybe not that deep, but that's awesome. Wow. Just to know that you guys had a hand in that program. I'm truly understanding the experiences that you all were afforded at such a young age. Thanks to your mom. Thanks to this Date Academy. Y'all, I had a blast. Just to recap, we were just discussing mentorship for students, what mentorship is defined as. We sort of spoke about how it's sharing wisdom and knowledge and, making sure that a mentor is someone who's been where you've been and they're going where you're trying to go. Someone who also wants to act as your role model. And the importance of these role models, of these mentors, is I have a few words for you: exposure, knowledge, and it's imperative. I love that word. It's so imperative to have these mentors. And it also these mentors keep students from making the same mistakes that they once upon a time made. And then Date Academy has a few mentorship programs that we discussed, which is the school-wide mentorship program where all of the students are divided amongst the teachers, ooh, what are those? Among the teachers, and then also after you all's assemblies, weekly assemblies, you all divide the males and the females up, and you have the counselors and other faculty and staff to provide mentorship where the students can debrief and just have dialogue. I think that's awesome. And then of course that good old STEAM Dream Team. We are definitely going to have the STEAM Dream Team on their own episode. I feel like they're celebrities at this point. I need all of their autographs, all y'all's autographs. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, we appreciate you all for coming on. You all, Mikayla, Marley, I know you got to get back to school. So I'm going to catch up with you guys later. Would love to see how you all are doing in the future. And Miss Nannette, thank you so much. Any last comments before we leave?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you we had a good
Thanks for
time.
having
We
fun.
really appreciate you allowing us to be on your show. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise.
That's awesome. Y'all, thank you. And we are out. You guys tune in to the next episode. See you guys.